Up to class 9, we have studied about scientific learning, right? What is scientific learning? Scientific learning means finding out the answer or solving the problem with the help of experiment, fact. Alright? That's why scientific learning is the best method of learning anything. Research based, experiment based. Alright? It is not random. It's not only a guess. So it do not depend upon the belief. Religion or belief ma depend. Right? Before 2000 years ago, people believe that earth is flat. And nobody do the experiment, nobody do the research, and everybody believe on the Bible. Purana Bible ma earth flat and to landmass ko waripari there is a ocean, and if you try to cross that ocean, you will fall. At the end of that ocean, there is a big spring, ठुलो झरना छ, अनि त्यहाँबाट झरेपछि मान्छे कहिले फर्किदैन हैन. And everybody believe on that because in that time there is no scientific learning. People don't do scientific learning. People believe on whatever written in a what you call religious book, right? भनेपछि तपाईले religious bookहरुमा जे लेखेको छ, if you follow blindly, that we call this as a blind faith. अन्धविश्वास भन्छ नि त. So अन्धविश्वास is not a scientific study. Understanding what I mean to say? So in a scientific study, we will check the fact. Alright? This is done in, scientific study is done in solving the criminal cases also. Crime haru bhayo katai. There may be the many suspect. Suspect भनेको उ अब proof त भएको छैन यसले मारेको भनेर. तर के गर्न पाइन्छ? We can assume, okay, person A, person B, person C may be the criminal. Alright? And the police also, court also, they do the scientific study for proving anyone is criminal or not. कुनै मान्छे criminal हो कि हैन भन्ने कुरा त तपाईले if you see the police also, they use the scientific study. हैन त अनि बल्ल सबै प्रमाणहरु जुट्यो. Okay, proof, facts, they check. And then only the criminal will given the punishment. Understanding what I meant to say? So it is practiced in police investigation also. It can be used in business also. Business मा पनि अब तपाईको business मा profit भइरा छैन. किन भइरा छैन? What are the best method to do the business? So it can be used in everywhere. So up to about this scientific study or scientific research, we have studied up to class 9 सम्म हामीले पढ्यौं हैन त. अहिले चाहिँ हामी यहाँ scientific steps of scientific learning पढ्दैनौं. We have already studied the step of scientific learning. There are 8 steps of scientific learning. First one is observation. Observe गर्नु पर्यो. Observation means knowing about the surrounding with the help of any 5 sense organ. Like भन्छ observation. Then we will ask the question. Then we will formulate the hypothesis. Then after that we will do the background study. After that we will do testing of hypothesis. And after testing hypothesis, there will be the result. Hypothesis testing गरेपछि result आउँछ. Result आएपछि त्यो result analysis गरिन्छ. After analysis we will draw the conclusion. And after conclusion, last step we will communicate that result with the world with the help of social media or magazine or newspaper. These are the 8 steps of scientific learning. अब यहाँ चाहिँ हामीले scientific learning को बारेमा पढ्दैनौं कि variable. So while we do the scientific study, if you do not consider the variable, your result may be wrong. So you should know the factor affecting the scientific study. Scientific study गर्दाखेरि चाहिने फ्याक्टर्सहरु, कन्डिसनहरु को बारेमा पढ्छौं. त्यसलाई भन्छ variable. So variable means any factor or condition or the quantity that can be changed during an experiment. So while doing the experiment, we will see the cause and effect. Let me say scientific study ma हामी cause र effect को relation हेर्छौं. What is the effect and what is the cause? For example, any student is weak in this class. Why that student is weak? Right? We can make the lots of hypotheses. Understanding what I mean to say? एउटै कारणले मात्र student weak हुन्छ त. How many factors are there? If some student get fail in exam, why he fail in exam? So we'll make the hypothesis. Alright, first hypothesis, that student do not study well. Student ले नै राम्रोसित पढेन. Second hypothesis, teacher ले राम्रोसित पढाएन. Teacher is not good. Third hypothesis, स्कुल ले राम्रो भएन. Fourth hypothesis, घरमा वातावरण भएन, पढ्ने वातावरणै भएन. Fifth hypothesis, exam मा चिट चोर्न पाएन. That also may be the hypothesis. Understanding what I mean to say? Some people depend upon the cheat. साथी गर्न पाएन, अर्को hypothesis. Understanding what I mean to say? यसलाई भन्छ factors. So what is the result? Result is student get fail in an exam. So what is the cause? So is there only one cause? एउटा मात्र कारण छ त? There are multiple cause. So cause र effect को relation हेर्नु पर्यो भने this factor or the condition or the quantity which affect the experiment are called variable. Understood? And this variable are of three types. One is independent variable, another is dependent variable, another is control variable. Class 9 मा तपाईले you have studied Newton's second law. Newton's second law पढ्नु भएको छ? In Newton's second law, first assumption is acceleration is directly proportional to force. Right? So this proportion means the proportion को meaning के हो भन्दाखेरि acceleration depend upon force. When you change the force, when you increase the force, acceleration also increases. So acceleration depend upon acceleration is a अब acceleration कस्तो variable भयो? Acceleration is a dependent variable. किन acceleration depend हुन्छ force मा? Force चाहिँ independent variable. किन force independent variable भन्दा force कति लगाउने भन्ने कुरा there is a ball. Okay, you are trying to kick this ball. अब यो बलमा कति किक लगाउने भन्ने कुरा तपाईको हातमा छ नि. Alright. The person who does experiment or research, they are called researcher. Right? Those variable which can be controlled by the researcher. Researcher ले control गर्न सक्ने, change गर्न सक्ने variable लाई भन्छ independent variable. And due to change in this force लाई बढाइदियो, यसको कारणले यो change भयो नि. Acceleration पनि त increase भयो. Now you tell me there is only one factor that affect the acceleration. एउटा मात्र factor छ त? Force कै कारणले मात्र acceleration change हुन्छ त? दुईटा बल ल्याउनुस्. एउटा बल ठुलो ल्याउनुस्, एउटा सानो. एउटा 1 kg को बल ल्याउनुस्, एउटा 5 kg को बल ल्याउनुस्. Right? Now you give the equal force. दुईटैमा equal force लगाउनुस्. Do acceleration become same? You are giving the equal force. Force त बराबर दियो. So force is not only the one factor. Force एउटै मात्र कारण हैन के acceleration change हुनलाई. Acceleration depend upon other factor also. That factor is called mass. अब दुईटैलाई एकैचोटी चेन्ज गराइदिनु भयो भने के हुन्छ? दुईटैलाई एकैचोटी चेन्ज गराइदिनु भयो भने you cannot validate the relation. यसकै कारणले जस्तो एउटा अब्जेक्ट एउटा बलको एक्सेलरेसन बढ्यो. ठीक छ? सुनि ध्यान दिनु. Acceleration of the ball increases. Right? के को कारणले बढ्यो? That might be due to the increasing force or that might be due to decreasing mass. Right? So if you want to relationship, यो acceleration को relation force सँग हेर्नु पर्यो भने you should put the mass constant. You should not change the mass. दुईटैलाई एकैचोटी चेन्ज गर्दियो भने के हुन्छ भन्दा if you change two factor together, दुईटा फ्याक्टरलाई एकैचोटी चेन्ज गराइदियो भने के हुन्छ होला भन्नुस्? You cannot validate the relation. फोर्स को कारणले एक्सेलरेसन चेन्ज भएको हो भनेर प्रुभ गर्नलाई चाहिँ मास चेन्ज गर्नु हुँदैन. That's why while you do this experiment, पहिला यो एक्सपेरिमेन्ट गरौँ. फर्स्टमा के एक्सपेरिमेन्ट गर्ने भन्दा we will take the two ball with same mass. दुईटैको मास के हुनु पर्यो? 1 kg 1 kg. राइट? एउटामा फोर्स दिने 100 न्यूटन, अर्कोमा दिने 200 न्यूटन. Which one will have more acceleration? 200 वालामा के को कारणले प्रुफ भयो नि त. It's a proof that this is due to the force. Understanding what I mean to say? अब यहाँ तपाईले एउटा 1 kg, अर्कोमा चाहिँ राख्नु भयो तपाईले लेट सपोज 2 kg or 5 kg. दुईटै चेन्ज गराइदिनु भयो. Understanding what I mean to say? अब यहाँ निर यो A भन्ने अब्जेक्टमा एक्सेलरेसन धेरै आयो. के को कारणले आयो? फोर्सको कारणले कि मासको कारणले? You cannot say that because you are changing both factors together. Force is also changed, mass is also changed. So you cannot blame on only one factor. एउटा फ्याक्टरमा ब्लेम गर्न पाइएन नि त. एक्सेलरेसन त चेन्ज भयो तर के को कारणले? फोर्स को कारणले कि मास को कारणले? थाहा भयो त? हैन नि त. There are two factors. So जतिवटा फ्याक्टर छ त्योसँग यो तपाईको एक्सेलरेसन को रिलेसन केसँग खोज्नु छ? फोर्स सँग खोज्नु छ भने फोर्स बिकम independent variable, acceleration become dependent variable. अरु जति पनि फ्याक्टर यसलाई इफेक्ट पार्ने छ नि त्यसलाई चाहिँ कन्ट्रोल गर्नुपर्छ. That should be kept constant. Otherwise this factor also affect the experiment. So individual one by one factor लाई हामीले चेक गर्नु. पहिला फोर्ससँग चेक गर्ने. So putting the mass constant. Understanding what I mean to say? So we will establish the relationship between acceleration and force. अब सेकेन्ड चोटि एक्सपेरिमेन्ट गर्ने. सेकेन्ड चोटिमा चाहिँ फोर्सलाई कन्स्ट्यान्ट राख्ने. Only changing the mass. Then we can establish the relationship between mass and acceleration. Understanding what I mean to say? So if you establish the relationship between dependent and independent variable, if there are other factors which affect the experiment, that should be kept constant. जतिवटा factor, there may be the multiple factor, बाकी सबै factorलाई के गर्नुपर्छ? Same राख्नुपर्छ. And that factors are called control variable. Now let's see independent, dependent and control variable. So independent variable means the factor changed by the experimenter, researcher. Research गर्ने मान्छेले चेन्ज गर्न सक्ने फ्याक्टरलाई भन्छ what do you call? Independent variable. Understanding what I mean to say? In this experiment, force is independent variable and acceleration is dependent variable because acceleration depend upon force. अनि मास चाहिँ के होला त? इन फर्स्ट एक्सपेरिमेन्ट मास के होला त? किन भन्दा फोर्स अल्सो एफेक्ट द एक्सेलरेसन, मास अल्सो एफेक्ट द एक्सपेरिमेन्ट रिजल्टलाई एफेक्ट पार्न सक्छ. भन्छ यो फोर्स र एक्सेलरेसनको रिलेसन इस्टाब्लिश गर्नलाई मासलाई कन्स्ट्यान्ट राख्नुपर्छ. मास शुड नट बी चेन्ज, अदरवाइज दिस रिलेसन विल नट बी मेन्टेन. So if there are other factors, independent or dependent factor by, if there are other factors which affect the experiment or result, they are called control variable. अब dependent variable भनेको चाहिँ those variable which depend upon independent variable. Independent variable चाहिँ researcherले चेन्ज गर्न सक्छ के. Those variable which can be changed by the researcher is called independent variable. अनि यो चेन्ज गर्नुको कारणले गर्दा the result is seen in a dependent variable. के रिजल्ट आयो? क्या effect पर्यो? Right? Due to change in the independent variable, what are the effect in a dependent variable? That factor is called dependent variable. So the factor affected by the independent variable is called dependent variable. यसलाई dependent variable किन भनेर रहेछ भन्दा dependent variable depend upon independent variable. Independent variable मा चेन्ज गरेको कारणले गर्दा यो पनि चेन्ज हुन्छ. Understanding what I mean to say? This is called dependent variable. Control variable means any other factor which may affect the result. Alright, and that should keep the constant. That should keep same. Otherwise, it will affect the result. This type of factors are called. This factor like one control variable. I'll give one experiment. Okay, and you have to identify independent variable, dependent variable, and control variable. Example दिन्छु ल. You are trying to prove that for the proper growth of the plant, sunlight is necessary. Plant को proper growth हुनलाई sunlight चाहिन्छ भन्ने तपाईको experiment हो. Alright. Now tell me which one is dependent variable, which one is independent variable, and which one is control variable. Hey, listen the topic. Topic के छ भन्दा for the proper growth of the plant, sunlight is necessary. Alright. अब भनौं what is the independent variable? Sunlight. Sunlight. अब त्यो plant, अब for that you will do the experiment. अब गमलालाई एउटा गमलालाई तपाईले राख्नुहुन्छ डार्क. One pot you will put in a well lighted area. एकदम लाइट आको ठाउँमा राख्नुहुन्छ. You will choose the two plant. दुईटा प्लान्ट लिनुहुन्छ गमलामा. एउटालाई राख्दिनुहुन्छ sunlight मा. एउटालाई राख्दिनुहुन्छ डार्क मा. Alright. So कति लाइट दिने भन्ने कुरा त रिसर्चरमा डिपेन्ड हुन्छ नि. सनलाइट आवश्यक छ फर प्रपर ग्रोथ अफ द प्लान्ट. अब कति सनलाइट दिने त्यो केमा डिपेन्ड भयो? रिसर्चर. सो लाइट सनलाइट इज अ independent variable and those plants which get proper sunlight, जसले proper sunlight पाएको हुन्छ उले के गर्छ भन्नुस् त? That grow properly. So growth of plant is what? Dependent variable. जसले proper sunlight पाउँछ उ properly grow हुन्छ. Right? And those plants which do not get the proper sunlight, that will not grow properly. Growth of plant depend upon sunlight. Right? अब growth of plant only sunlight मा मात्र डिपेन्ड हुन्छ. अब अरु फ्याक्टर खोजौं त. ग्रोथ अफ प्लान्ट केमा डिपेन्ड हुन्छ? कति पानी दियो, अमाउन्ट अफ वाटर, क्वालिटी अफ सोइल, कस्तो क्वालिटीको सोइल हो, फर्टिलाइजर कतिको हालेछ, कस्तो क्वालिटीको सोइल हो, डिपेन्ड हुन्छ कि हुँदैन कत्रो पट छ व्हाट इज द साइज अफ द पट पटमा राख्यो कि जमिनमा रोप्या हो यसमा असर पर्दैन र इज देयर ओन्ली वान फ्याक्टर विच एफेक्ट द ग्रोथ अफ प्लान्ट नो सनलाइट छोडेर बाँकी जति पनि ग्रोथलाई एफेक्ट गर्ने फ्याक्टरहरू छन् के छ भन्नुहोस् त एमाउन्ट अफ वाटर राइट क्वालिटी अफ सोइल एमाउन्ट अफ फर्टिलाइजर ओके साइज अफ द पट सबै के होला कन्ट्रोल भेरिएबल एउटा पटलाई हामीले सनलाइटमा राख्यौँ एउटालाई डार्क राख्यौँ तर एउटा पट चाहिँ ठुलो युज गऱ्यौँ अर्को सानो युज गऱ्यौँ एक्सपेरिमेन्टमा असर पर्छ पर्दैन पर्छ एउटा प्लान्टमा जहाँनिर तपाईँले सनलाइटमा हाल्नु भएको छ त्यहाँ चाहिँ पानी नै नदिनु पानी नदिनुहोस् जहाँ अलिक डार्क रुममा राख्नु भएको छ त्यहाँ प्रपर वाटर दिनुहोस् रिजल्ट मे बी डिफरेन्ट सनलाइटमा राखेको प्लान्ट चाहिँ प्रपर ग्रो नहुन सक्छ डार्कमा राखेको चाहिँ प्रपरली ग्रो हुन सक्छ height of the plant. Understanding what I mean to say? So if you want to establish the relationship between the growth of plant and sunlight, hey, growth of plant र sunlight को relation गर्न खोजे हो नि त establish गर्न खोजे हो नि त right except sunlight छोडेर बाकी सबै फ्याक्टरलाई के भन्नु पर्यो all of the factor control variable. Understanding what I mean to say? So if you control the control variable you can establish the relationship between independent variable and dependent variable. Clear? अब sunlight को पालो सिद्धो किन भन्दा growth of plant is affected by sunlight को पालो सिद्धो अब sunlight लाई control बनाइदिने अब amount of water लाई independent बनाइदिने. Now your experiment is amount of water affect the growth of the plant. Now which one become independent variable? Amount of water is independent. Growth of plant is dependent. Sunlight control variable. एउटा लिने क्या अब एउटा लिने amount of water लिने त्यो लिएपछि अरु फ्याक्टरलाई कन्ट्रोल गर्ने. So studying what I mean to say and that research finished and we'll draw the conclusion. Light को कारणले कति इफेक्ट हुँदो रहेछ थाहा भयो. Then we'll see the amount of water. Another factor we'll put the constant and we'll draw the conclusion. After that fertilizer amount of fertilizer लिने अरु फ्याक्टरलाई के गर्ने होला constant राख्ने. And after that फेरि अर्को एक्सपेरिमेन्ट गर्ने quality of soil size of the pot. Studying what I mean to say then only we can establish the relationship between independent variable and dependent variable. Clear?